Today, we're going over the hog mollies of the offensive side of the football as we look at the offensive linemen, the top guys in the 2022 NFL draft class. Later on, I am going to have a new mock draft video for you where I have a very special guest making his second appearance on the channel. But be on the look for that. But what's crack-a-lacking? It's your boy Broshmo, just in case you did not know so. Go ahead, become a bro and subscribe. Leave this video a thumbs up if you enjoy the content. And as always, let me know what you think in the comment section below. I always love hearing from you. I love having that nice football discourse. No highlights. I've been saying this in every rankings video, but I always get hit with the copyright claim. Not trying to have this demonetized. Got to make that money. But without further ado, let's get into the nitty gritty. So I'm going to be giving you like a top 25. I unfortunately don't have enough time to make enough of those slides. So we're going to kind of go over 16 through 25 here because this interior class is exceptionally pretty good, and there were other offensive tackle prospects I kind of wanted to go over. And let's start with Mr. Matt from North Dakota. We'll figure out how to learn or how to say the last name, but he was all right at the Senior Bowl. Nothing that stood out, but you know, when you're coming from a lower level competition, you kind of want to go to the Senior Bowl and just look like you belong. I thought he did that. Mainly played left tackle the last 2 years for North Dakota, allowing only 12 pressures and no sacks through both those years. But this dude tested out. It's just freakish. Even if he's a bit of a project, I don't mind that. That's why he's at 113 on the big board. If you didn't know what the numbers were there, that's 113 on my total big board. Because he's got 36 and an eighth inch arms. He's sitting there at 6'8", 312, 506 or 503 in the 40, 28 in the bench, 30 in the vert, 113 in the broad. Just pretty solid. I wouldn't mind working with a guy like that. I'm going to kind of go over the tackles here real quick before we talk about the interior. So we're going to jump to Max Mitchell, who didn't have the best off-season draft process. Now, he comes in with a ton of experience, over 2,700 snaps under his belt. He's a very savvy player. He's really good at using blocking angles and getting his body into position. Last season only allowed 13 pressures and 3 sacks. He's a pretty smooth athlete. I just won't say he's a very explosive one. He's quick to get into position. He's got pretty oily hips, so like he'll open up and ride defenders past the pocket. He could work obviously on the full body strength, and coming into the Senior Bowl, he was definitely he was a faller after the Senior Bowl. Let's just say that. Now, after the season, he actually ended up having fractures in both his hands that he had to get surgery on. So returning for the Senior Bowl and looking like, oh man, he's very hesitant to use his hands pretty actively. It makes a little bit of sense, but yeah, he's sitting here at 105. I still think he's a pretty solid prospect at that. Daniel Faalele, he's at 100. He's a guy I could maybe put lower, but you just don't see guys with this size playing football in general. 6'8", 384. That's just ridiculous. He's legit the mountain, playing mainly right tackle there for the Golden Gophers. Easily best tape of the year was Ohio State, week 1. But he is a raw prospect through and through. Despite this ludicrous size, he kind of tested out how you would expect a guy that size would test out. And it was kind of, it was what it was. There were like some impressive scores, like the 30-inch vert. You don't expect from a guy that big. But 5'6" in the 40, that kind of makes sense. But he doesn't have the mentality I think the NFL typically likes. For a guy his size, you would think, oh, he loves to bury guys in the run game. This dude he's nasty. But he's not the unstoppable force. He's more the immovable object. He's basically, hey, I'm a mountain, you're going to have to go around me. And unfortunately, in the Senior Bowl, we saw a guy like Jesse Luketa, who's maybe like a mid day 3, maybe late day 3 pick in this class. do just that. Put him on his butt. So, yeah, his stock got a bit hurt. I've seen people try to comp him to Orlando Brown, which Orlando Brown was coming out of Oklahoma. He had the bad test scores, but ended up being a pretty solid football player. I don't know. I don't think that's the same, because coming out of Oklahoma, Orlando Brown was a hell of a football player. He was pretty productive, and you can't really say the same thing about Falele, who he's been a bit inconsistent, for the most part pretty good, but he never reached the type of production a guy like Orlando Jones did. So I don't really think those are fair comps. So Falele, he sneaks here into my top 100, barely. I could see him easily falling out within the next, if I have a change of heart in the next few days. And then Kellen Dyche, got him here at 84. Doesn't have the ideal length you'd expect from someone that was 6'7", as he comes in with 32.25-inch arms. So maybe people will be like, oh no, got to play this guy at guard. But I think his hands are so active and quick that he can make it work. He's got quick feet too. He's very good on the run and in movement, which worked really well back there at Arizona State. So yeah, I think he's definitely a cat to look out for if you're an outside zone blocking scheme. I would love to scoop this cat up. Does need to add a little power to the frame, but kind of is what it is. Let's go over these interior guys, starting with Marquise Hayes out of Oklahoma. Typically not my cup of tea when it comes to offensive line prospects. I'm a sucker for athleticism. That's not really Hayes. Hayes is your kind of prototypical phone booth blocker, but he's exceptionally strong, and the dude hits and hits hard. Like when he gets into the strike zone and the pads of an opposing defender, it's like watching a brick go through a car window. He hits them that hard, and I kind of like that, and I think his game just translates pretty well. Zach Tom is a very interesting prospect, as he started his career at center for the Demon Deacons, and then the last 2 seasons he's actually played left tackle, and he's actually been pretty solid during that time. He had allowed 25 pressures, 4 sacks, 10 penalties. Again, that's over the course of the last 2 seasons, but at his size, I kind of assume he will probably make a move back to center. Matter of fact, his RAS score I think was a 10 if you switch him to the center position. Dude ran an insane 4.94 40, 33-inch vert, pretty darn solid, and he was pretty good in the agility drills as well. So I like him there at center. Another center here in the class is Luke Fortner out of Kentucky. Just got the frame to be a center. His lateral movement's pretty solid. He's pretty quick at his stance, and he's actually really good at dealing with length and power. We saw that at the Senior Bowl, where he kind of he squared up and neutralized Fedarian Mathis in a one-on-one, and I thought that was pretty darn impressive. He's never going to be a guy that drives people back in the run game, but overall, I think he's still pretty darn solid. Darian Kennard, I think, makes the move to guard. If you couldn't tell, that's a G. That's not a C. I think he is a guard in the NFL. It's kind of funky because he mainly played, I think it was right tackle there for Kentucky, and he played tackle day 1 of the Senior Bowl. And he was all right, and then he played guard the following few days. It was kind of a mess. You could also say this, he was moving in and out from guard to tackle, and it was just kind of, it wasn't great. He was not good in the Senior Bowl game, but you could say that about a lot of the offensive line prospects there at the game. But still, the dude shedded weight. I like that. He's still got a very imposing size, good power. I think he needs to learn to pass protect a bit better, get his hands a bit more active in pass pro. Cole Strange, and let's just talk about Cole Strange and Cam Jurgens together, because these cats were impressive. Cole Strange came to the Senior Bowl. I wouldn't say really stood out, but a guy coming from Chattanooga, you just want that guy to come in and look like he belongs, and he did that. And then both him and Jurgens tested out like monsters, man. Monsters. Where Cole Strange, he had 5.03 in the 40, 31 in the bench was nuts. Looked pretty solid in the agility drills. So I kind of like this guy, probably playing maybe a zone center. Basically played guard his whole career there at Chattanooga, but I think he probably plays center in the NFL. He was learning that on the fly at the Senior Bowl, which also, benefit of the doubt, he's learning a position on the fly there. So if he didn't look necessarily great at it, I'm not going to mind. But yeah, no, I like the potential of Strange. And then the Beef Jurgens himself. He's just had a pretty stellar career there at Nebraska. Came in, he's got good length for the position, and then a 4'9", 240, 25 in the bench, 33.5-inch vert. And then he got a 119 in the broad. That was only beat by Cole Strange, who did it an inch further, and he was actually exceptional in the agility drills. Really, if you go back and watch a few of his games, the only hiccup I really saw was Oklahoma, where he had to deal with Perrion Winfrey, because Oklahoma uses him at nose tackle. Had to deal with the insane upper body strength and length and power of Winfrey, and it didn't go too well. Also, having Adrian Martinez as your quarterback didn't really help him a lot, because Martinez wasn't a guy that liked to be in the pocket too long. So yeah, Jurgens, I can see why people like him, and I've seen him go as high as the second. I've seen some people throw him at the end of the first. Some people have him above Tyler Linderbaum, which I think that's kind of wild. But I mean, if you're comparing them, their physical profile and how they tested out, they're very similar. I would just say Linderbaum has the better tape. But overall, Cam Jurgens, a hell of a prospect. At number 15, I have Sean Ryan. Man, this cat was very good for UCLA, and might as well call this boy Thickums. He got huge hands, 11-inch hands. You ain't going to see that anywhere in this class. But thick thighs, powerful hands at that, and impressive grip strength. Doesn't surprise me considering his background. In track and field, he used to be a shot putter. Also has a rugby background, and he really hits with a definite punch. And he really feels like a natural athlete, just the way he moves. Probably his best game, I would say, came against Kayvon Thibodeau in 2020, where he held Thibodeau on 25 plus pass rushing snaps to only one pressure. He also had a pretty decent game against Drake Jackson earlier this year as well. But if we're gonna kind of like talk about the nitpicks, he legit attacks everything. This guy's always moving forward, even in pass sets. And sometimes I put here get toroed. I mean like a bull, literally like, oh, toro. That's why I maybe think maybe putting him in a very zone heavy scheme where he's playing in motion, playing in movement, or a play action heavy scheme where he can attack. Or maybe it's just something you hope gets better, and you just try to be disciplined about it. He does, and you could kind of combine this with, he gets antsy pre-snap. He had 4 false starts. Like, he is so eager to just get to the point of attack as quick as possible. I also put he needs a little footwork improvement there. It's just as when he goes to reset, if he loses the point of attack and reset and drops the anchor, his feet do get narrow, and it doesn't really help him with that. If you're kind of like dropping the anchor, you kind of want to set a wider base. But overall, very good prospect here. Number 14, Jamari Sawyer out of Georgia. I really like the comp here. Ben Grubbs. I was a big Grubbs fan back in the day, but I will say I don't like him at tackle, and that's why he's playing guard. I'm glad he made the move to guard there at the Senior Bowl, because basically at Georgia he played with either a tight end or 2 tight ends on his side. He basically was playing guard while playing tackle for Georgia. He is a phone booth blocker, powerful hands, strong upper body, just loves to ragdoll people around. He has impressive length there at 33 and 5/8 inch arms, improved his balance tremendously, but I would still say his biggest downfall is his core strength. He's a bit bendy at the waist. He could get bent back, and while it looked better last year, I think also he wasn't nearly put in such a compromising position as years past. He's got good versatility along the line, playing almost every position there for Georgia, but I think he settles in there at guard. Doesn't move well in space, and he moves with very narrow and small steps, so it's not, he could be moving, but he's not moving just because it's just, instead of nice strides, it's but also he leaves the strike zone a bit open. That's just working on your hand usage. That's all it is. At 13, Luke Goddard out of Central Michigan, coming here at 13 and unable to participate because of a hamstring injury he suffered at the Senior Bowl, and it was still nagging him by the time of the combine, so he only got to do the bench during his pro day. And the combine. He did at the combine, I believe he was 26, and he came at his pro day and threw one more on top of that. But I could see why people like this cat, as he played right tackle there for Central Michigan, but he is definitely gonna probably have to move to the inside with less than ideal length. Typically, you want them to hit that 33-inch threshold. Not to say tackles can't get by with sub 33-inch arms. We've seen Penei Sewell and Rashawn Slater do just that this past season, but they were also special prospects. I don't think Mr. Goddard is in the league of those guys, but he's got quick and strong hands, wins with good leverage, he has very good grip strength, but at times he just holds on for too long, and that's where we saw the penalties arise for him this past season. He can drive blockers back, or I said blockers, defenders back. Good lower body strength. He's got great recognition. He picks up on stunts and blitzes fairly quickly, and he's got enough power to take on double teams. Again, the concern, probably the holding penalties, the length, lower level competition. He put that just because he goes to Central Michigan, but for me, it is what it is. The ACL injury in 2020 before the season was canceled and shortened, and of course the hamstring injury, so there are concerns there, but overall I think is a pretty darn good prospect. At number 12, Nicholas Petit-Frere out of Ohio State. I put versatile tackle because I think he starts guard early, and he's a bit of a project as a tackle, but I think he could be a pretty darn good tackle down the line. But he has the frame to really do either or. He's very well built. He's got very good length, and he's got very good get off for a guy his size. He's got a strong lower body, quick feet, and all the problems that come with Petit-Frere is just its technique. He plays with a very wide base, and it doesn't allow him to be nearly as move well laterally. He's got an inconsistent anchor, so just bringing the feet in a little bit better. Also, his hand usage is just how he uses his hands needs all kinds of work. He basically leaves the strike zone open. Guys get underneath his pads. There are times where they'd get under the pads and they would just bend him at the waist, and that's where we saw 26 pressures. We saw that Michigan game where he kept getting annihilated, but you're working with something here. There's definitely a good prospect. He's definitely a good prospect and could be a solid tackle in the long run, but right now probably a guard initially. At 11, Dylan Parham out of Memphis. Love this cat. Didn't initially because I was like, man, this guy's 285, man. Yeah, he can't stack it. There ain't no way this man could cut it in the NFL. Shows up in the Senior Bowl, 311, put it on 25 pounds, and I'm just like, okay, he's gonna be slower because kind of athleticism with it was this guy's thing, and he wasn't. He was actually particularly good. Amazing athlete, moves well, he gets low out of his stance, and he wins with leverage. Leverage, love it. Never stops churning his feet, and he's quick to reset if he loses initially because his anchor can be a bit inconsistent. But again, this is going back to tape when he was like 20 pounds lighter. Sometimes he plays too fast for his own good, and it ruins kind of the timing of the play. he'll get to where his blocking assignment a bit too early, and there's no one to block there. So he just misses the guy. And I put here, just arrives too early. Goes to Memphis, you're going to put low-level competition. It's just going to be a thing. But I thought he looked particularly solid. Also, playing center on the fly there. Another one of those guys playing center on the fly at the Senior Bowl. And I thought he looked good. Probably, you want this guy in an outside zone blocking scheme. You just want him in movement. He was good. Going to the top 10, starting with Abraham Lucas, Honest Abe himself. And I said at the beginning of the year, this guy, not much of a high ceiling, but you know he's got a high floor. And he's just going to be a solid player. And I kind of stand by that. He's got light feet, and he just mirrors very well. Great length. He is a bit tall, and you could probably work on how he uses his hands, because he does, like I said, he plays tall, plays high, and he allows guys to get under his pad and just gets out leveraged. So learn how to use your hands a bit more efficiently and protecting your strike zone could go a long way. Playing in Mike Leach's offense, and then last year kind of in the running gun, there's not a lot of true pro style rushing concepts on his repertoire, but I think it'll be fine. I put Andre Dillard here as a comp because physically they're actually pretty similar, but also they came from similar systems. So you might be concerned, man, will he have that developmental curve when he gets to the NFL? I don't think so, because he came to the Senior Bowl, and you know what? I thought he was the best looking offensive lineman there. I don't remember him losing not one rep, and he was doing that on the right and left side. He was doing both tackle spots. I like that. I like that a lot. He's very good at absorbing contact, especially against power guys. Quick processor, can move in space. Huge fan. He's here at 46 on my big board. At number 9, Kenyon Green out of Texas A&M. I loved me Kenyon Green. The combine happened, and he looked a bit out of shape, and I don't even want to say a bit out of shape. I just feel like he came in and maybe he's just not a workout warrior guy. He was never going to look good at the combine. But I stand by what I saw on tape. This guy is quick out of the stance, hits with a lot of pop, great length, great movement skills, gets upfield quick, gets to that second level quick. You'll see him catch linebackers off guard because they're like, yo, what are you doing here? And he's like, yeah. Great versatility along the line, but I think he would pay dividends if they just kind of focus him on one spot. There were times last season where he was playing right tackle, left guard, left tackle. Like he was playing 3 to 4 different spots. He started the year at right tackle, had banger games, moved to right guard. It was all right. Moved to back to left guard, where actually that's where his best season came at in 2020, was purely left guard. And he looked great, but then they started literally playing him everywhere, and it's just not going to work. You want at least some consistency when it comes to what you're having to see, and they really made it hard on him there at Texas A&M. Could do a bit to get better with his hand usage. He comes in a bit wide, like he's going to bear hug somebody, and that did lead to some holding penalties this past year. I think it was like 5 holding penalties, 7 overall penalties, but 5, I believe, holding penalties. But there are times he gets a bit lungy, just plays top heavy, and plays in front of himself. But overall, I love Green as a prospect. I put versatile guard because I think if you need him to play tackle, he can do just that. At number 8, I got Tyler Smith out of Tulsa, moving up to 33. This cat's been slowly inching up my board. I had him at 50. Thinking then I had him at 42, and I'm settling on here at 33 because because I was taking him initially to Seattle a lot in the second round, and then I started snagging him with a couple other early second round teams, and I really think this cat has the potential to sneak into the first round, because I thought if he stayed a year, if he was able to have a Senior Bowl, because he wouldn't have got a Senior Bowl until next season, because I think he's a redshirt sophomore, but next year he'd be redshirt junior, so allowed to go to the Senior Bowl. But if he would have had that, then he would have put the world on notice. I think he would have been a first rounder, but he didn't get that. Now, he is a very raw prospect. I put developmental tackle. I think you're starting this guy guard early because you just want him on the field because of how physically dominant and athletically gifted he really is for a guy at 6'5", 224. Really is. He's a very smooth athlete, great length, and you just love that whole mentality of, I'm going to move you against your will. Your consent is not required. It's the type of physicality we're talking about, but he is exceptionally raw when it comes to his technique, everything, when it comes to his footwork, when it comes to another guy that plays a bit top heavy and off balance, how he uses his hands and take blocking angles. The dude had 16 penalties for goodness last season, but there's a lot of upside with Smith. So yeah, no, I like this cat, and he's on the move. I don't think he's gonna go creep into my top 30, because again, he's still a developmental guy, but definitely the physical and athletic traits are there. At number 7, Zion Johnson, making it at 25 on my top big board. Really, the biggest knock on Zion Johnson is he doesn't have a lot of high-end traits. Like, he's got good power. Like, 32-inch bench press, pretty impressive. 32 verts, pretty impressive. But outside of that, it's not like he's got good get-off. Like, he doesn't have, like, big pop. Despite how he benches, you don't really see that pop necessarily. But you love the versatility. You love the build. The guy played left tackle, I believe, in 2019 and 2020, and then moved to guard. Then he learned center on the fly at the Senior Bowl. He's got good feet, stays on. Like, he's just a good player. At the end of the day, he's just a good player. So depending on where you're at as a franchise, you could look at him and be like, man, that might be the final puzzle piece we need on our offensive line. So the dude's going to be a very good prospect. At number 6, Trevor Pennon out of Northern Iowa, here at 22 on my big board. Simply put, the NFL is going to have him, I think, a bit higher because they're going to love his mentality. He plays bully ball. He has that nasty mentality like, I'm going to bury you in the run game, or you're not touching my quarterback, and it led to a lot of penalties, 16 penalties. This guy, you just got to accept, he's probably going to end up drawing as many penalties as he causes. That's just the meat and potatoes of it. But he's got great length, and he's phenomenal athletic profile. A guy at 6'7", 325, testing out a 4.89, 40, 28 in the bench. His agility scores were just bonkers. You're just going to love that type of combination. And I think initially, like, he's going to be a very good run blocker. And he's a work in pass protection currently. Staying low at his height has been difficult for him. And in pass pro, it really feels like he moves without purpose. Like, there was one set where it looked like he was dancing because he couldn't find nobody to guard. So he's just sitting there like he was doing a drill. It's like, no, man, go do something. Go do something. Even his hands sometimes just, it feels like they're wildly, just he's swinging them wildly. Like someone threw you in a boxing ring head to head with Floyd Mayweather, and he's got these calculated, precise punches, and then you're just sitting there like, it's kind of like that. Obviously, that's a bit of hyperbole on my part, but it is what it is. But I could see why a lot of people love this cat, because he's got the physicality and he's got the athletic profile. He hits a lot of size thresholds, so you're gonna love this cat. I put Jack Conklin. You could easily put in Lawan Taylor, because I think he's got that type of mentality. And number 5, Bernhard Raimann out of Central Michigan. Not a lot of people are gonna like this guy because this dude's old. One of the oldest prospects in this class. And it sucks because he's also probably one of the most inexperienced prospects in terms of his position. He's only been playing left tackle for the last 2 seasons. Prior to that, he was a tight end. But you know what? He was one hell of a tackle there at Central Michigan, because this dude is strong. 30 on the bench, just in case you didn't know. Great movement skills. Still looks like he moves like a tight end. Impressive grip strength. straight up, I don't think there's a learning curve here when it comes to him playing tackle. I think you could plug and play this guy. So depending on where you are as a franchise, you could look at Ryman and be like, yeah, let's go ahead. Let's grab our tackle. He's plug and play now. We're set. So I don't expect him to see him going against those teams that pick in like the first 15, maybe even first 20, but teams that are really competing for the playoffs and competing for a Super Bowl. He's going to catch the eye of those squads. And then at number 4, Tyler Linderbaum out of Iowa. He cracks my top 20. And the biggest knocks on him are size, as he just got over that 300 threshold, and lack of length. And that's why I think he ends up sticking it out at center. I don't see him being a guard in the NFL. I think he's really center only. But the dude's a phenomenal athlete. He's just a great athlete, great processor, strong hands, former wrestling background. If you haven't seen the Twitter clip of him and Tristan Wirfs wrestling, where he put Mr. Wirfs on his back, you should go check it out. This guy has very underrated play strength. If anything, I think if he could use his hands a bit more independently, that would be nice. He is a bit of a grappler. There's part of that wrestling background, but also he's savvy enough to know when to stop, not to get called for holding. But I'm a big fan of this cat. He's probably going to go a lot lower than this, and I think that sucks. So let's go ahead and get to the big 3 tackles in this class, starting with Charles Cross out of Mississippi State. He's going to have that Mike Leach air raid offense stank on him. Like, how will this guy have a similar learning curve to maybe a Andre Dillard, which is kind of a name you don't want to hear brought up when talking about drafting a tackle in the first round. There's not too many pro-style Russian concepts in that offense, so you're going to be like, okay, there's probably going to be a learning curve there. But Cross is a wonderful athlete, very light on his feet, could mirror anybody. He took it was such an improvement upon his 2020 season. Good grip strength, great core strength. You're never seeing this guy waist bending. If anything, in terms of pass protection, what he can work on, I think it would be he starts in a narrow stance, a narrow base, and his first step is very inconsistent. And by that I mean, like in pass pro, like you'll see him take these stupid large steps back and just giving up ground that he doesn't necessarily need to, and then his kick slides could come out a little too far, and he kind of like opens himself up to getting hit with an inside pass rushing move. So again, a little nitpicky here, but we're talking about the top 3 guys in this class. I got him at 7. Let's go ahead. Let's talk about number 2, the sticky, icky, Ikem Ikwonu out of NC State. This is my favorite comp. Taylor Moton, sign me up. Everyone and their mom, when Moton was coming out, oh, he's going to be a god. He's going to be a god. Oh, he's one hell of a tackle now. I'm just going to say that. Icky, long, powerful arms, buries defenders. He has that mentality, like rest in peace. You're going 6 feet under. Don't touch my ball carrier. I don't know why I said it that way. This dude's got a deep anchor, really sticks down. You're not going to move him off his spot, but he has also shown some slick and smooth hips. Like you got to understand, this dude took a massive leap as a pass protector this past season. And without saying, he's strong, so he throws a mean punch, literally stops guys' momentum right there, right off the block. Still needs a bit of polish in his pass pro. Does get a bit lungy at times. We kind of talked about that earlier in the video, where in pass pro you don't want to be attacking the football. You're gonna attacking the defender. You're gonna end up getting toroed, and then there's just this. You're gonna give the defender free reign over your quarterback. Footwork could use a little work, but overall he is a phenomenal prospect and tested out way better than I expected him to. And then at number 1, and he's actually my number 2 overall prospect, Evan Neal. Huge fan. I couldn't really find a good comp, so I went with Mike Renner because I just really trust his comps. I really like them too. and it was Jordan Mailata. I ain't gonna complain. This dude's got elite size, an elite length, elite physicality. He even shedded some weight just for you guys. Looking good. Explodes out of his stance. He has experience, like full seasons of experience, because in 2019 I think he was playing either right or left guard. Then he played right tackle in 2020, and then he moved to left tackle this past season. You'll love that experience. If you're gonna nitpick, something that he actually arguably got better at this year, playing maybe a bit too in front of himself, playing head over knees, and getting the classic Toro throw. But overall, great prospect, one of my favorite. He'd be my first guy off the board if I needed a tackle. But this is a pretty darn good class, especially the interior class. I think is a bit deep on day 3. But that's it for the video. Go ahead, do the YouTube thing. Check out that mock draft I'm going to have for you later tonight. It's a real fun one, I promise. And as always, until next time, you be easy, my friends. Later.